You stayed, even when she grew cold, even when her tone shifted, even when her silence said more than her words ever did. You stayed, because that's what you were taught, to be patient, to be kind, to be dependable. You thought being there was proof of love. You thought your consistency would change her mind, but it didn't. And now she looks at you like a shadow, something she can step over, use, ignore. You think this is love, but it's not. It's a performance, a slow erosion of your identity disguised as commitment. Here's what no one told you. A man is never respected for how long he stays. He is respected for what he's willing to walk away from, because the willingness to walk quietly, cleanly, without begging, is the purest expression of power. She doesn't test you because she hates you. She tests you because she's searching for your edge. She's looking for the man who doesn't need her approval to breathe. Every time you stay, no matter what, she stops believing you could ever leave, which means she stops feeling your value. This isn't about being cold. It's about being so rooted in your self-respect that your presence is no longer a plea. It's a privilege. Because when a man values himself more than her validation, his silence becomes louder than begging. His absence becomes a mirror, and she starts to see what she's about to lose. And the moment she senses you could leave, not out of anger, but out of clarity, that's the moment everything shifts. You thought being kind was enough. You thought showing up, texting back, remembering her birthday, made you different. It didn't. It made you available. And available men are rarely desired. They're expected. Because in a world where most people take before they give, your kindness isn't seen as virtue. It's seen as supply. And supply without limit becomes invisible. She's not falling for the man who gives without edges. She's falling for the one whose presence is earned, the one who is there, but never chained to being there. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A man who gives too much, too soon, isn't loving. He's compensating for a lack of boundaries, for fear of abandonment, for the belief that his worth must be proven to be felt. You became predictable. She knew your next move. She knew you'd answer. She knew you'd over-explain. She knew you'd keep chasing even as she pulled away. So she stopped wondering. She stopped respecting. She stopped feeling that low hum of tension that tells her, this man has options. This man can walk. That hum is what creates obsession. Its absence is what creates neglect. You think you were chosen for your kindness, but in reality, you were tolerated for your consistency, until consistency became invisibility. Because when kindness lacks limit, it doesn't inspire safety. It signals weakness. Understand this. What is abundant is taken for granted. What is scarce becomes sacred. Scarcity doesn't mean disappearing. It means being deliberate. It means your energy isn't given away like spare change. It's earned. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to lie. But you do need to stand still long enough for her to feel the weight of your absence, not just the comfort of your presence. You're not oxygen. You're not here to be consumed endlessly by someone who hasn't decided if they want to breathe you in or walk away. You are gravity, and gravity doesn't chase. It pulls, and only those aligned with its weight will stay in orbit. Because when you charge nothing for your presence, you teach her to treat it like it's worth nothing. She doesn't pull away because you're bad. She pulls away because you became too predictable, to matter. And when you're predictable, you stop being a man. You become a mirror reflecting her control. She can't explain it, but she feels it. The shift, the weight, the quiet danger. When a man walks into the room, not louder, not bigger, just unavailable in spirit, something stirs. Her nervous system registers it before her mind can rationalize it. It's not about good looks, not wealth, not charm. It's about the edge, the subtle knowing that this man doesn't need her. And because he doesn't need her, his presence becomes intoxicating. This is the paradox. Neediness repels, distance seduces. Because in every woman's psyche, there's a deep pull toward the man who can walk away, the one she can't fully hold. Not because he plays games, but because he's whole, complete, untouchable at the core. She might not say it out loud, but her body reacts before her thoughts catch up. She leans in slightly, watches you more closely, feels pulled into your orbit. Because the moment she realizes you could walk without drama, without warning, without a word, everything changes. This isn't just attraction, it's the creation of emotional gravity. Here's what most men never understand. You don't earn respect through effort. You earn it through risk. The risk of losing her, the risk of being alone, the risk of being misunderstood, disliked, even hated for standing in your truth. That risk is power. Because the man who has nothing to prove, who is willing to lose the woman to stay true to himself, becomes dangerous in the most attractive way. She tests your boundaries. You smile and say nothing. She pulls away. You let her. She tries to spark drama. You stay calm, grounded, uninterested in her chaos. This isn't aloofness. It's control. It's stillness under fire. And it's rare. Because most men react. They overcommunicate. They chase. They spiral into fear, trying to decode a woman who's already losing interest. Because she senses he won't leave. And why would she respect someone who won't even respect himself enough to walk? The man who can walk away is dangerous, not because he's aggressive, but because he's unavailable to manipulation. He doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, he doesn't panic, he chooses. And if choosing means choosing solitude over self-betrayal, so be it. Women feel this before they understand it. It stirs something deep, not fear, reverence. The same way you feel when standing near a man who commands without speaking, who leads without asking. That energy, that power, it's built in the silence of non-reactivity. And when she feels it, when she senses that your love is optional, but your self-respect is sacred, she can't unsee it. Because what she feels before she understands is the threat of losing a man who doesn't flinch, a man who doesn't negotiate his dignity, a man who walks without leaving the room. And that man, he never has to raise his voice to be heard. There's a point, a quiet, dangerous point, where the man who once chased stops, not because he stopped caring, but because he started seeing clearly. He sees how often she rolled her eyes, how often she dodged responsibility, how often her busy meant not interested. And suddenly it clicks. This isn't love. It's ego maintenance, the need to feel chosen, the fear of walking away and wondering, what if she came back the next day? But here's what makes a man unstoppable. He doesn't wait for the next day. He walks today. Now, not as a tactic, not to manipulate, but because he refuses to sell his soul for affection. This is the walkaway point, the moment where your silence becomes your boundary, where your absence becomes more powerful than your presence ever was. It's not revenge, it's not bitterness, it's leadership. And for the first time in the relationship, you lead. Because until now, you followed. Her attention dictated your mood. Her withdrawal made you chase. Her coldness made you panic. You adjusted your truth to fit her comfort, and in doing so, you lost yourself. But now, you don't need to be chosen. You choose. She pulls away. Let her. She plays cold. Match it with calm. She tests you. Don't explain. Don't negotiate. Simply respond with what most men fear the most: distance. Because the moment you explain your worth, you've already discounted it. True respect isn't earned through conversation. It's earned through what you're willing to lose without losing your center. She won't say it, but in that silence, she feels it. A man who walks without noise is the most dangerous kind of man, because he's not acting from ego. He's acting from standard. You thought persistence made you strong, but it was only your fear in disguise. Boundaries make you strong. Walking away without drama makes you dangerous, because the man who stays when he should go becomes forgettable. But the man who disappears calmly at the moment of disrespect, he haunts her, not because he vanished, but because he refused to shrink himself to stay. And in that choice, he becomes the one man she couldn't break. This is the walkaway point, not a tactic, not manipulation, a turning point, where you stop trying to be enough for her and start being enough for yourself. And in that moment, you don't just walk away from her. You walk away from the version of you that needed her to feel valuable. You don't leave to teach her a lesson. You leave because you finally learned yours. She doesn't learn from your words. She learns from your threshold, not what you say you'll allow, but what you actually allow. Because every time you excuse the disrespect, every time you rationalize her coldness, every time you justify her mood swings, you teach her one thing: this man has no line. And the moment a woman sees that, respect dies. Not immediately, not loudly, but slowly, like a fire running out of oxygen. Because here's what no one tells you: women respect boundaries more than gestures. They respect silence more than explanations. And they respect the man who's not afraid to walk away more than the one who stays no matter what. She wants a man who doesn't just know what he wants, but knows what he'll never tolerate. Not because he's controlling, but because he's anchored in self-worth, anchored in clarity, anchored in a standard that can't be moved by affection, attention, or attraction. And this is where most men fall. They confuse love with flexibility. They think being a good man means always understanding, always accommodating, always giving another chance. But kindness without a backbone is just submission. And over time, she doesn't admire it. She uses it. Why? Because a man who can't say no can't protect anything, not himself, not his values, not the woman he claims to care about. A man who tolerates everything becomes nothing. He loses his shape, his center, his gravity. And women aren't drawn to men who bend endlessly. They're drawn to the man who's carved from granite, firm, still, unmoved when tested. She doesn't crave chaos, but she does crave structure. She wants to know you won't shatter under pressure, that your love isn't so cheap it endures abuse just to stay close. You don't rise in her eyes by chasing her moods. You rise by standing still. even as her storms rage. You teach people how to treat you, not with slogans, but with consequences, not with threats, but with disappearances. Let her get confused. Let her wonder why you didn't engage. Let her sit in silence, trying to decode your reaction. Because in that silence, she'll realize you don't need her to understand you. You need her to meet your standard, or you disappear. No arguments, no lectures, just absence. Because when you stop showing up for people who take you for granted, you stop teaching them that your presence is free. And when your presence costs something, it becomes valuable. What you tolerate is what you teach. So if she learns she can test you without consequences, she'll keep testing. If she learns you'll stay no matter what, she'll stop trying altogether. But if she learns that your love has a spine, that you walk when disrespected, that her beauty doesn't blind you to her behavior, then suddenly everything changes. She steps differently. She speaks with more care. She looks at you with new eyes, not because she fears you, but because she respects you. And once that shift happens, you're no longer just a man. You become her standard. You wanted her to understand you, to see your loyalty, to notice the little things. She didn't, not because she couldn't, but because you taught her not to. Through every "it's okay" when it wasn't. Through every time you stayed silent to avoid conflict. Through every time you tried harder instead of walking away. You trained her to believe your needs were optional, your respect negotiable, your presence guaranteed. And now, she doesn't feel the same, not because you're not enough, but because you were too available to be respected. Because here's the truth. Respect isn't built through affection. It's built through restraint. The man who can walk away quietly, confidently, without drama, doesn't need to be liked because he's already chosen himself. And that's what women feel in their core. Not just your charm, not your gifts, not even your words. They feel your capacity for distance, your refusal to chase, your discipline in silence. That's what haunts them. Because in a world full of men desperate to be loved, you're the one who refused to be disrespected. And that makes you rare. That makes you magnetic. That makes you a man worth respecting. So don't become louder. Become less available. Don't explain more. Become more mysterious. Because respect isn't demanded, it's earned in silence.